All right. Hey, Stanley.
Hello, Mickey. Hi. Hi, everyone. We are in the merry month of May now.
Tis true.
It's wonderful. I went to the park. Things are blooming. Azaleas are just about to come out. And I have just about gotten rid of my cold. I hope. How about you?
I'm feeling all right. I had a cold also. I think everyone kind of did. But yeah, I feel good. I'm happy the weather's changing. It's changed my mood. You know,
I agree.
Seasonal depression and all that.
I agree.
It's lifting.
You know, we are going to talk about an interesting subject. I think it's called adventure. And as usual, I looked in the dictionary to find out about adventure and venture, the root of adventure, I guess. Venture involves, according to the dictionary, doing something risky, like he ventured into the dark park when it was dangerous. That would be risky. It would be venture. Adventure, I guess, is more general. But even so, it means you are stepping out into new territory. Obviously, the astronauts are doing an adventure every time they go up into space. They are adventurous, I guess you would say.
Adventurers.
An adventurer, that's right. I am definitely not an adventurer, but I know a few people who are, and I'd like to illustrate with one, but let me ask Mickey what he says about this first.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the idea of adventure is so it's so exciting for the youthful mind, you know, when you're stuck in middle school or even high school and you feel like there's no way out of the town that you grew up in and the people that you grew up knowing. The idea of packing up and just traveling the world or going on some great adventure, maybe joining the army or doing something with your life that makes you feel like you have some more significance than you might feel when you're young. I think that that's something every kid kind of has in them growing up. And then as you get older, you have all these grandiose ideas of the adventures you want to go on, the things you want to do, climb Mount Everest or run a marathon or do whatever it is, go scuba diving and with sharks or something. And I think as you get older, your sense of adventure changes. And I think a huge part of it is based on when you're young, you have a lot less things sort of, to live for. You have a lot less of like...
Can you stop us?
No worries. Come on in.
We made some extra cookies.
Oh my
We were
gosh.
wondering if you might like some.
Oh, how nice.
That's so wonderful.
Thank you.
Come in.
Hi.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Hi.
Sorry again to interrupt.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We got cookies.
Yeah. It's my neighbor.
Oh, really? Wow, what a wonderful day. Would you like a cookie? You want to take a cookie break?
Later on.
Okay, I'll put them right here. Where was I? Oh, I think that when you're young, you have sort of less to lose. That sense of being invincible when you're a kid is so strong in you that you think, I can climb Mount Everest, I could go backpack through Africa by myself, or I can go to Eastern Europe and not know any language of the languages or the culture and just go and do whatever. And you have this sense of like risk taking that is great. And then as you get older, you start to you maybe fall in love, or you develop like a really strong group of friends, or you have a career that you're passionate about, and slowly but surely the idea of kicking up and going to do something else becomes a lot less enticing because you have things you'd be leaving. Whereas when you're a kid, I think you don't have a lot to leave, so you just want to go.
You
And
think
so
people become more cautious as they get older?
I think so. I mean, if you
I
look
certainly
at,
have.
yeah,
Yes.
I think, well, because you have so much to lose, even the feeling of waking up and like getting a coffee with one of your best friends is way more exciting than traveling the world by yourself, I think,
Yeah.
when it comes to people. But yeah, those are my first 2 cents of potentially many more on adventure. But tell us about your friend,
Well, I have
the
a
adventurer.
I have a good friend who he is age, I think, 40. And he is about to do a bike ride fundraiser for AIDS, one of the organizations that does support and research for AIDS. The bike ride will be 3 days, starting in Boston and coming to New York. That, to me, is really an adventure because you are on a bike. You bring your own bike. You
Whoa.
start up there in Boston. He will be with a group from, mostly I think from Brooklyn. They will be traveling together. They are housed and fed for the whole trip, at night, of course. During the day, they ride on their own bikes about 100 miles a day. That's a
Wow.
lot. That's certainly an adventure.
That's a lot of miles.
He likes he's a big bike rider, but this is a challenge, and I think it's wonderful. He's in good shape. He's always physically good, but this is a challenge, and it is certainly going to be an adventure, and I will help contribute to that, of course. Maybe even see if I can do any kind of volunteer work connected to the bike ride, which I would like to do.
That's cool.
I haven't checked that out yet, but I'm about to.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, I suppose contrary to what I just said 3 minutes ago, is as you get older and your life becomes a lot more structured, it's so easy to fall into complacency. Things become very mundane and repetitive, and I think that it's important, like Zach, to go searching for things that are a challenge to give you that lust for life again, or to give you some new variety or new experience to be excited about something. I mean, I think it really falls down to the sense of play. When you're not playing in life, things can become very boring. And when you look for things like this, like to go to bike ride from Boston to New York, it's like an exercise in play for a grown up. You get to just do a thing. We say, why are you doing it? It's like, yeah, well, I'm raising money, but why are you doing it? It's like, because it seems fun.
Well, and also you have the companionship of a group of people.
Yeah.
They are meeting in advance of the ride, which is in September. They're meeting in advance to do limited rides and a chance for them to get to know one another. It's cool. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
I had the experience of being the opposite, if I can throw that in. At the time in my life when I became fearful of flying and just refused to for quite a number of years. And I was not happy with that, but I was fearful. Eventually, I just got tired of it and heard about this program sponsored at that point by Pan Am, which is no longer exists, I guess, called Fearful Flyers. And I went into the program and did a lot of crying, not worrying about why the fear started. Went on for a few weeks, and then we took this cheery, wonderful celebratory flight to Hartford and back from JFK one day in May. Yeah. And that was an adventure. It worked. The program worked. And it was wonderful. I think it was in part wonderful because I had refused to do it for so long. It had become habitual for me to be fearful. That's why it was called Fearful Flyers. And we were all fearful for one reason or another. They didn't, again, it was behavior modification. They didn't care about why you were fearful. You were just fearful. And you did a lot of deep breathing and imagining and so on, to the point where the behavior changed and the fear was lessened.
That's an adventure in and of itself.
I think so. For me, it was very significant because I had been limiting my own travels.
Yeah.
And
which you've done a lot of before, right?
And after that, I did a lot. I went to Europe any number of times by air, also occasionally by ship, but very much by air, and it unlocked. It unlocked a problem for me, and made my life a lot better. I was very grateful for that.
That's cool.
But you don't have to be an astronaut to be adventurous.
Yeah.
What have been some of your adventures?
I feel like a lot of my adventures have come from a lack of planning, mostly. I think that had I planned more, it would have been maybe less of an adventure, but I'm glad that I didn't plan so well because it became much more exciting. I remember one of my best friends, Grant, and I went to Iceland in, I want to say it was 2016 or 2017. I think 2017, summer of 2017 we went. And we decided, I had called him maybe a week before and said, like, we should do a trip. We should go somewhere. And he said, where do you want to go? And I said, well, let's just look up, like, where the cheapest flights are. And so we looked up flights, and the cheapest flights we could find were to Iceland. So we were like, well, let's just go to Iceland then. It's the most affordable trip. So when do you want to go? He said, well, let's go next week. So we just bought plane tickets to go to Iceland on WOW Airlines, which I believe no longer exists.
WOW? W-O-W?
Yeah, WOW Airlines. They don't exist anymore. They shut down. Terrible airline.
Like Pan Am?
Yeah. Very, very unpleasant airline to travel on. But we went on WOW Airlines to Iceland. We had planned nothing. We rented a car. That was the only thing we had done before we got there. So we got there. We had to figure out where we were going to stay the first night. We went for 10 days. And we had no idea. We did so little research, so we didn't know that, like, Iceland is really cheap to get to, but once you're there, it's very expensive. All the food is very expensive. Because I guess, exports and imports and tourism that's everything that they do for their economy, basically. So tourism's a huge part of their economy. So they charge a lot of money for people to go see Iceland. And we stayed in hostels the first maybe 3 nights. Second day we were there, we went to get lunch, and we were going to go to this waterfall that we wanted to see, and it was raining, and we drove down the road, and these 2 kids, like this girl and this guy, they ended up being from French Canada, but they were hitchhiking on the side of the road. They were maybe 21, 22 years old, and we saw them when we were pulling into this little shack on the side of the highway to get something to eat, and when we came back out to leave, they were still standing there. So we pulled up to them in the car and said, where are you guys going? And they said, we want to go see this waterfall, but we don't have any way to get there. And we said, well, we want to go see a waterfall. We don't really have any plans. We don't really know what we're doing, but we do have a car. Do you want to come with us? And they said, sure. So then we basically made the trade of, like, we'll be your transportation, and you just tell us where you want to go, and we'll just go there too, because we don't have any plans. So they got in the car with us, and we took them to this waterfall, and then we spent 3 days with these people. We took them all the places they wanted to go, and we didn't know where we were going, so we just went wherever they thought was cool. And then they decided they wanted to go to Rainbow Mountain, somewhere in the middle of Iceland. It took us like 12 hours to get there driving because there were potholes, like 3-foot deep potholes all on this road. It said 4-wheel drive only, which we had a 2-wheel drive car. And we drove into these mountains for 10 hours. Finally, we get there. We thought that there was going to be like maybe an Airbnb or a hostel situation, but there wasn't. It was just camping, which we didn't know. So the kids we were with, they had all their camping gear and everything. They went and set up their tents, and we had to sleep in the car, me and Grant. And it was Iceland in the summer, which means that it's sunny 23 hours
Always,
a day.
yeah.
So we slept in the car. We ended up sleeping in the car on that trip, I think 5 out of the 9 nights that we were there, because we couldn't afford to stay in the hostels. It was too expensive. So we slept in the car as much as we had to, which was terrible. But we ended up leaving that morning. It was so miserable in the mountains. We just said screw it, and at like 4 a.m. me and Grant just left, and we didn't tell them that we were leaving. So we kind of just left them in the mountains with some other campers. I think they found their way out because they're still alive. But yeah, we left, and then we just went and did other stuff in Iceland. But it was one of the most memorable trips I've ever had.
No doubt.
Yeah, and it made Grant and me very, very, very close. And now we travel. He's like my travel buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to Italy 2020, right before COVID happened. Me and Grant and Sarah, the 3 of us went to Italy and traveled all around Italy.
What made him a good travel companion?
He is he's a better planner than me, although we didn't plan well for Iceland. But he's a much better planner than me. So he will like download the maps and make an itinerary and like do all of that stuff. And I am very much go with the flow. Like I don't have any specific things I feel like I need to do in any given place. So I'm really up to do whatever. So we travel really well because we never fight. We're both really excited to do anything. And we also, we don't want to just drink every night at another bar and then sleep in until noon the next day and then drink again at another bar. We want to like get up early, 7 a.m., go out and do all the tours, go see all of the museums, go do all the things. So we like to do the same stuff, and we don't fight ever. And yeah, he's an easy travel partner because he's very low maintenance, and so am I. And he's willing to sleep in a car if we need to, which is fun.
That is ideal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are, you can have friends, but they may not be good travel friends.
Oh yeah. I mean, if someone needs to sleep in a nice hotel, I'm like, dude, let's just sleep anywhere. Let's see the place. I'd rather spend my money on a tour of the Vatican than like a nice hotel. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's great that way. You traveled to Russia with 2 of your best friends, right?
I did, but it was on a tour.
Yeah. Were they good travel partners?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
These are friends from Chicago who are both deceased now, I'm sorry to say, but we did a number of trips together. And yeah. But I think we gave each other a certain amount of latitude, I think. They were a pair, and I was the carry-on.
The third wheel.
But it worked. It always worked. And I miss them very much. Terrifically so. I never had a bad time with them. Never.
That's cool to say.
Yeah.
Do you have like a greatest adventure of your life? It doesn't need to be travel, but just...
Well, I think going to Russia was certainly high on that list.
Yeah. Why is that?
And well, I did it because my mother's and her family came from what is now Belarus, was then Russia. They came from Minsk, which is now the capital of Belarus, a century ago. And my mother and her family departed knowing that they would never see their parents again, and they did not.
Wow.
But mother and her siblings, there were 3 of them, 3 of the 5 offspring from the Shapiro family, were born in Russia. my mother and Fanny and Pearl, none of them ever went back, nor I think had any great urge to go back. It was I who had the urge. And the first time I went, I stayed in St. Petersburg with a friend who I think I've spoken about this, had 2 apartments there. A fellow who worked as an interpreter for the UN. The apartments were side by side. I stayed in one, he stayed in the other. And he was my translator for that week that I was there. And it was amazingly memorable, of course. Every day was just intense. And I often thought about my mother, that she would have, had she allowed herself, which she did not, she would have enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a beautiful city.
It's like a reconnection with your roots.
Very much so. Yeah,
That's cool.
and that's why it's highlighted in my brain as a very memorable trip.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't have any sort of urge to go to the places my family came from, but it wasn't my mother who came from one. I've been to Ohio, but her mom is from Czech Republic.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I identify your family with Canada.
My dad's side is from Canada. My mom's side's from Eastern Europe. But yeah, they're all Czech or Slovakian or one of them. But I've never been. I want to go. I really want to do. My dad really wants to do the Camino de Santiago, the walk from, I think it's from France through Spain to the whatever the sea that borders Spain is, Mediterranean. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. To the Mediterranean, there's like that famous church on the Mediterranean in Spain, and the Camino de Santiago goes from France through to that church, and it's like a pilgrimage. My dad really wants to do it as a family.
What about small adventures other than travel?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if this is a small adventure, and I say it every episode probably, but I think that the adventure I'm on right now, just committing to a life with Sarah, has sort of been the most fulfilling and exciting adventure that I've embarked on.
I would think so. Yes, sure.
It's an interesting feeling to take someone else into consideration for pretty much every decision you make, and to constantly have someone else's well-being on your mind is an interesting feeling.
Does that fall under the category of venture, meaning something risky?
Certainly, I think. I don't feel risk in it. I mean, I know that it's inevitable, the risk of losing that person you choose to spend your life with. That will happen for one of us. Who's to say when, but, one of us will lose the other at some point.
Sure.
And I think that, the knowledge that grief is impending for one of us is risky, to know that comes at some point, but choosing to indulge in the joy until then.
What about the risk of losing your freedom and your independence?
I was very afraid of that at first. A few years ago, like sort of before I had made this kind of decision, even a little bit in my in my head, I was very afraid that there were a lot of adventures that I wanted to go on in my 20s that I didn't go on because I embarked on a different adventure, which was sort of cultivating this relationship. And I think that there is the worry that there's a lot of things I would be doing if I was not with a partner.
Sure.
But I don't think, after a lot of contemplation, I don't think I would enjoy them nearly as much as I enjoy what I'm doing right now. And I think that sort of gives me the solace to accept and let go of those other dreams that I had, because I don't think, no matter how exciting they would have been or how good they would have sounded in a book, or how cool they would have been to tell stories about later, I think that they would have ultimately been not as satisfying as what I'm doing now. And I think that's evident by the fact that I'm doing this and not that. You know, and part of me thinks that it's like fear of the unknown, and part of me thinks that it's holding on to the good that you find. If there's anything I can see as like a purpose for life or a reason for being, it's to find good things and hold on to them. You know?
Well, and you may find that you can do some of the things with a partner, with her.
Yeah. I always wanted to go live in another country for at least a year.
Yeah.
In my 20s, and I think now the cards didn't fall that way, and so probably what will happen now is I'll end up doing it in my 30s or even 40s with my whole family, and we'll all go do
You could.
it. You know,
Sure.
something like that would be the new version of that old dream. You know, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably the biggest adventure I'm doing right now. And then little ones, you know, I'm running the New York Marathon this year, which is a little bit of an adventure.
That's quite an adventure.
A lot of prep, a lot of work, and a lot of training, and a lot of getting ready for that big, exhausting day.
Boy, I'll say.
But yeah, that's an exciting little adventure.
That's early November, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, November 3rd, I want to say.
Right around Election Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll run for my vote. Stanley, we're right near 30 minutes, so I have a question for you before we end, and you can ask as many as you want. I just want to give you a time check. Do you have any adventures in your head that are forthcoming?
My the simple answer is no. The only adventure I want is to keep doing exactly what I'm doing right now and living exactly where I am. I am blessed with a lot of things, and believe me, I acknowledge them every day. Mostly the friends that I have. I am richly blessed with friends who keep me going very well, very well. I think I'm just really lucky to have that, and it's a very quiet adventure, but it's a very powerful adventure for me. Just keep going, yeah, and hope the country stays free.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a perfect way to end it.
Okay.
That was wonderful.
Good.
All
Well,
right.
this has been our own little adventure.
Yeah, this podcast is an adventure, isn't it?
But it's lasted okay so far.
Right? It feels good. And we got cookies this time,
Yeah.
which doesn't happen usually.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
I think we should have a... You're going to try one, right?
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
These are chocolate chip.
Oh, yeah. This is the adventure. Right here. See you, everybody.